Hello everybody and welcome back to another tutorial for scenery design. Today we're going to be making this beautiful Wood County Airport sign, and we're going to make it as a 3D object. I'm going to show you how to texture it the way I do it. I'm going to show you how to burn shadows into the texture, and then we will close out by doing a simple applying the textures back to it. So if you want to learn how to do that, stay tuned. So first things we're going to do is we're going to be opening up 3D Studio Max. I'm using Max 2012. And I've gone through and had to change a few things like the layout and the look of it and all that kind of stuff. So basically what we're going to start out with is a rectangular box, which is going to be the brick column. So we're just going to throw a box down here. Make it here, and it's going to be enormous because it's way outsized. We know that our box in American terms is 7 foot tall by 2.5 foot wide. Our column, that's standard column size, going by the brick. And we added a little bit extra due to the cement cap on top and bottom. So converting that over to meters, we have something that is 0.8 meters wide, or in length, by 0.8 meters in width, and it is 2.2 meters tall. So we'll go ahead and zoom to our object here. Let's go ahead and make that viewpoint max. So anyways, so there is our brick column. Seems a little bit kind of fat compared to the height of it. So let's try 0.7. That's much better. 0.7 looks a lot better. Alright, good. So we have our column here, and the column is complete. We're going to go ahead and just leave it alone and go ahead and make the sign portion of it, this part right here, which is basically, it's only about 2 inches wide. I don't know what that is in centimeters, but it's about 2 inches wide, and it is it's about as far out as this would be tipped over on its side, so almost 7 foot wide and just under 7 foot tall. So let's translate that into Photoshop, and how we will do that is we'll get in our front viewport here. Oop. We're not going to do that though. Oops. And we're going to go ahead and first things first, let's go ahead and center this dude up, because I hate it when it's not in the center of the there we go, much better. So we're going to take we're going to draw this out as a line, and I'm going to show you how to convert that line into an edible poly, and we're going to extrude it, give it some width, and cap the back off. So let's go ahead. Alright, and to make the sign, we're going to select our line here, and we're going to left click to start the line. You can hold shift. Shift will give us a good straight 90-degree lines. Right here, we're going to left click again, and we can get a point about halfway between the top and bottom, and we're going to point it out down here at the bottom, and holding shift, coming back, left click, hold shift, and click on the original point, and it'll obviously ask you to close the spline. Yes, we are going to close it. Now we are going to go to our move tool here, select and move, modifier tab, and select vertex, and we're going to make these 2 points here where they're exactly on top of each other. So on the X plane we have negative 299, and we're going to make this one negative 0.299. Basically they're in exact alignment with each other now. Good. And we are good. So these are already on the ground at 0, 0. So we'll grab this here, adjust it, make sure it's in the right position, double check with our perspective here, make sure things are still in alignment. Yes. Sometimes you'll grab some things and they'll be out, it'll be all crooked anyways. So now we're going to go ahead and make our arc here. So we're going to right click on this and turn it into a corner and just grab these two points here, kind of like when you're making ground polygons, exactly like it. And that looks pretty good right there. That looks pretty close. What do you think? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, now you'll notice that our curve here has kind of a jagged edge to it, and that's fine because we want to save polygons, because each one of these, you're drawing a line out. So a line from this point to here is 2 polygons, and this corner here, even though it doesn't have a vertex on it, is still a point. From here to here is 2 polygons. So we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 polygons. If you were to step this up to 6, which is the default, which is when you do it your first time, is what it's probably going to be. This is in this rollout here, just above selection rollout. I'm playing around with the steps here. You notice you get a nice smooth corner, but it does cost you in polygons. So about 2 should be good enough. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take it out of vertex mode, and we're going to use this here, and we're going to align it with the edge. Good, so we have our column and our sign. Let's go back in so we can see everything here. Go back to perspective, and we will have a look at it here. Good deal. I like it. So let's go ahead and grab this thing here, and we're going to bring it right out to the edge, just barely inside the column, just like that. Now we are ready to turn this object into a editable poly so that we can modify it like we can the column here. So we're going to right click on it, convert to editable poly. As you can see, let's change the color to like red or something like that. It closes it up and it becomes a 3D object now instead of just a 2D spline. But on the back side, anywhere you see black is going to be transparent. So from the back side, you wouldn't be able to see this from the flight simulator, but you would see just the front side. We're going to fix that anyways because we are going to give this thing some depth, and so it's not just a flat plane. We're going to give it some depth. So to do that, we're going to go into our polygon selection, select the side we want to extrude, which is going to be the one and only side. We're going to click on, where's my button at? Oh, they're right in front of my face. Extrude. I'm going to bring this down a lot. We don't want it that wide. Probably about 0.1 would be good. Maybe less than that. 0.05. That looks good. There we go. Oh, I forgot. You got to actually, you have to actually hit OK. There we go. I thought I did hit OK, but apparently I didn't. Alright, so now we have a 3D object. As you can see, it has depth, has the front side, but it is still open on the back. See here? So to fix that, we're going to try a neat little trick here. Now this only works, okay? We have edges all the way around. We're going to cap it off basically. We're going to cap this back hole. If we had one of these, say if I were to select this right here, or if I were to go through and try to optimize this and go ahead and delete this right now, which I'm going to eventually to save on polygons because this will be in the ground, we would have a hole both on the back and on this side here, and the cap holes option would not work. So before you optimize anything, you need to cap it off. So with just the object selected, you're going to do your drop down here and select cap holes. Uncheck smooth new faces because we can smooth it ourselves if we want to, and we're going to collapse all of this. There we go. Now we have a completely full-sided 3D object. Good deal. Now we can go through and optimize this because right now this one object in itself is about, let's see here, where's my polygon counter? Yeah, this selected object, as you can see, is 32 polygons, 44 for the entire thing. Oops, polygons. 11 polygons, 23 for the entire object. So what we'll do is we're going to hide unselected. We're going to right click on our object here, hide unselected. And we're going to go back to our polygon selection. We're going to delete this side because this is inside the column. Nobody needs to see it anyways. So it's unused polygons. There's 2 polygons we can shave off right there. And also we're going to select this bottom one and just hit the delete key and get rid of that. Now unhide all. Now we're going to do the same thing with our column here. Going to convert it to an editable poly if you haven't already, so that you can use the polygon selection tool on it. And we're just going to get rid of the bottom because we don't need it. And there we go. Now let's have a look. What were we at? I don't know, 22, something like that. Polygon counter. Now we're at 9. Or in 14 for the total object. 14 polygons is not going to break the bank. Okay. So we are good now. Let's go ahead and now we'll center this up a little bit better on the column there. There we go. Let's turn on edged faces so we can kind of see our edges a little better. That's much better. Much better, much better, much better. Alright guys, now we're ready to throw some texture on this thing. So before we're going to do that though, we are going to attach these 2 to one another so it creates one big object. So we're going to select this object here, or this one, doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and select the box itself. Click the attach button and just left click on the other objects that you want. If you have multiple objects, you just go through and left click on all of them and they all turn the same color as the original object. Make sure you uncheck attach or unactivate attach. Otherwise you'll get back in here and you'll be clicking and you're just attaching everything, and hopefully you don't run out of undos to get that back. You can go back and detach it afterwards if you absolutely have to. Let's say you accidentally messed up. You have to select the polygons basically now that you want to detach, and you just hit the detach and they become their own object. Now we're going to name this sign 1 because there are 2 signs. There we go. So our sign is prepped and ready for textures. So we go through our texture modifier here. We're going to create a new texture. We're going to make a multi-texture. Multi-texture means multiple textures applied to one object. So we'll select it here. We're going to change it from, click the standard button here. We're going to change it from standard. It's going to be a multi-sub object. We're going to discard the old material. I don't know what that's all about. And we have 10 textures available here. Now, you used to be able to change the color of each one of these, and I don't know what's going on. It might be a setting that I have. If any of y'all know, can y'all tell me how to fix this to where I can change the colors of each one of the textures so they're not all black? That would be fantastic. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. Anyways. So we need to count up how many textures we technically need here. So let me move this off to the side. Let's grab this here. So this is the front of the sign here. We know we're going to have a texture here. So there's 1. And then 2 for the brick column. Now if we were to just make 2 textures, 1 for here, 1 for here, we could just basically duplicate and it would have a brick on all sides. But when it came down to burning in 3D, or not 3D, when it came to burn in shadows to it, we would have shadows on all sides as if it was here. And I'll show you. I know it sounds confusing, but it will make sense as I show it to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to make, basically, we're going to have 1 texture here and 1 texture here. The front and the back is going to be 1 texture because they don't require any shadow or anything. Actually, we can use the front and back and the side of here, but it does kind of mess things up as far as how it sees the texture in the unwrap modifier, and I'll show you why. So we're going to need front and back, so that's 1 texture. This side here is 2 textures. This side here is 3. The top is 4. The front side of the sign is 5. Back side of the sign is 6. And then the edge of this sign will be the 7th texture. And that is all we have to texture. So we just need 7. There we go. Now with 7 textures selected, we are going to grab this and drag it onto our object, and we are good to go. Yeah, show end result, show standard. If we had a standard texture, it would show it in here, which is fine, whatever. Now, with that done, we have applied our texture to it. Oh, that's why. I had that selected. So we're going to go ahead and apply it to the whole object. That's why it didn't all turn black. So now we're going to assign IDs for these. We're going to give each side an identification number, so that when we go to texture it later and create our texture map, it'll separate them for us. Just hold Control and left click there. This is going to be texture number 1. Just set it right there. You don't have to do anything else. So left click here, this will be texture number 2. Texture 3, it's already done. Texture 4. Texture 5. Texture 6. And then we'll go through and individually select our edge here. And this is going to be texture 7. Okay, so our textures are all assigned. They're all ready to go. Now we need to apply a map to it and get it all mapped out, basically. So first things first, we're going to go through and we're going to map each one of these textures that we have created. So go through and we'll select texture number 1. Oops, nope. Texture number 5, 3, 1, 1. Why has this thing... Oh, you know what I did? I was putting it on the wrong side. Alright, so that was my fault. My fault completely. Just set it right here, guys. On the top one, not the bottom one. That wasn't smart. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this again real quick, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I fixed my problem. Sorry about that. Like I said, sometimes when I do these things live, just on the fly, I make mistakes, and I've done this once already, and I still messed it up. That's the second time I've done that in a row. Okay, so we're going to go to our Polygon Selector. We're going to go set it for set ID 1, and we're going to select the first ID, which it should just select. Oh, I forgot to do this one here. This is texture number 2. Now let's go back in here and texture 1. There we go. Texture number 1, it will select just texture number 1. We're going to do the drop down here. We're going to UVW map it. And you can see it has like the map here all like as if it was shooting from the top down. I'm going to click normal align, click on the side that we want here, left click and hold down and kind of move it back and forth sometimes to make it work. And just hit fit. And there we go. Now it has drawn the map all the way around. You can see the orange little line here. And it is mapped correctly. So we will do the same. We will do the same for all of the sides, and I'll come back to you when I'm doing the sign here. Alright, I've got the column mapped. We're going to go ahead and do the top here. The good thing about the tops and bottoms of stuff is they're already set up to just, so you don't have to do the normal line just as long as it's in there. Just right click, collapse it. Go ahead and select the front of our object here. We're going to, again, UVW map, normal align. We want to use the front edge here and hit fit. And it draws a square or rectangle to completely encompass our object. And we will do the same for the back. I guess I could have just went ahead and done the back too, but whatever. 6, map, normal align, fit, right click, collapse, and we're going to do the same for number 7. Now with this one, we're going to map it. We'll use a normal line. We're going to grab about halfway down here and hit fit, and it's going to basically encompass the whole thing. It's a good deal. It's an edge. It doesn't matter. It's going to be one solid color anyways. So we have mapped. We've applied a map, and we have basically mapped each edge so they all have shape within the material editor. Now, we will select our main object here. We're going to go into our modifier list, and we're going to unwrap it. Unwrapping it gives us this nice pretty little green edge, and we're going to open our UV editor. Okay, and we'll maximize this so you can kind of see it a little better. And you see all these little green lines in here. I hope you can see them. It might be kind of hard to see. These are all the edges to every map we have on here. So what we got to go through is, it's because all IDs are selected. So we go to ID 1, which is texture number 1. And same thing, like here's 5. Here's the side of the sign. You can see the arc and all that kind of stuff. So first thing we need to do, let's go ahead. I tell you what, let's do this first. We're going to apply a checker texture to this object so we can kind of see what we're doing here. This is what I like to do. This will help you a lot. 10 by 10. And kind of give it some good, cool little colors here. Yeah. We want our checkerboard to look kind of weird. And let's just drag this onto here. And click this here, makes it show up. That is really hard to see. I don't like that. Let's go a little darker. That's much better. Let's go a little darker. That's much better. All right, go away now. Be gone with yourself. Now we'll open the editor. And we will select ID number 1, which is going to be this one right here. There we go. Yeah. And we'll grab this edge here, move tool. I'm going to just hold down on shift so it doesn't like move it all crazy directions. It moves it only on 90-degree planes. And bring this in. Now you see on the over here on our perspective how it's adjusting itself. See how it's all stretched out to the top here or stretched out wide there. We want to make this so that it is not stretched. It is in the correct layout basically, so it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one here, and I'll be right back. Alright, sorry, I had to do a little conflict resolution outside the door of the room here. Had 2 young gentlemen out there that I will call my children that were disagreeing with one another over the ownership of a toy. The toy is resolved now. So anyways, this is going to be our texture here, our 1024 by 1024 texture, you know, that we were going to use, that we will paint all of our cool stuff on in Photoshop, and I'll show you one. Let's open, I don't know, this is my Wood County project. Let's open like here for our building. See what I'm talking about? This is the 1024 by 1024 texture. This one's actually a little bit bigger, but this is like all the different sides of all our different hangars and buildings and roof textures and whatnot. So with that being said, that's what we're creating. That's what this is right here. Okay, so we don't want this sign to dominate the entire texture. We're going to use this texture. We're going to have our sign here, one sign here, one sign here. We might put another texture for a building or 2 here and another here and here. We can probably fit 5, 6, 7 buildings worth of textures, especially if there's stuff that's not commonly looked at. So basically they don't need like a very detailed texture. So let's select this this whole thing here. Now that we have them all, the squares here basically about the same size, so they're all in a correct perspective. Each square looks the same. That's why I use the checkers. It makes it a lot easier to do. And we'll just grab this. Oop, I forgot to show you here. Hold shift to do this. There we go. It's still wanting to. Yeah, there we go. So make sure we're still in alignment here. Good. And we'll drag this up into the corner because we don't need that anymore. There we go. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now texture number 2. is going to be this side here. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. I'll show you one more time. Drag it out. And let's look at texture number 1. We want them all to be kind of the same here. We're going to almost make it exactly the same as this one here. So you can see just by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 1/4 cross checkers there. So we'll bring this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/4. And bring this in until it basically matches. And you can drag this out here so you can kind of see it a little better. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. There we go. So we'll do number 3 now, and so on and so forth. So I'll be right back. Alright, we've got them all completely mapped out now. Now we're going to turn them back all IDs, and we can see all the different sides of our objects here. So we're just going to kind of basically align these things up on the texture map here. I want to make them so they're very close to exactly the same as one another. I always do this. This is just one of my little practices that I go through. You don't have to do it this way. I mean, it is a few extra steps and it is time consuming. And there's probably a much easier way to do it. This is just the way I know how to do it. So, I'm self-taught, guys. So, a lot of things I do don't make a lot of sense, I guess, to most people. People who do this stuff for a living. So we'll go ahead and grab this. Holding shift does not work as far as this thing goes. This is driving me nuts. I gotta figure that out. It did the same thing on my changing the scale of it. It did it earlier. It's just a pain in the butt. Those are a little bit longer than that one, but whatever. This is the top of it here. And this thing, well, I'm going to make this sucker just as small as I can. Doesn't matter. That's the top of the concrete column. Put that off to the side. Here's our Wood County sign itself. So we'll stick that like right there. Yeah. We'll stick that right there. Grab the other side of the sign, stick it right there. Let's see now. These are not. I'm gonna make this a little bit taller, a little bit bigger and wider and all that kind of stuff. There we go. Much better. Then we'll grab the top. We can put the top like up here if we want to. Just in this little hole. Basically, what you want to use as much, maximize the use of your real estate is the best way to put it. And here's the edge here. We can flip this thing. Not that button. Not that button. Holy Pikachus, he just said. Oh, that's why. Turn on our angle snap here. Bam. Stick that right there. That's just off to the side. So there we go. There's texture 1, texture 2, texture 3, texture 4, 5, 6, and texture number 7, all laid out here. Now, this is the cool thing that you can do with 3D Studio Max. We're going to make this into a texture map. So we're going to go Tools, Render UVW Template, and we want a 1024 by 1024. Now you can use 512 by 512, 2048, 4096, whatever you want to use as your texture. Now if this is, just use whatever you want to use here, but make sure it is in a multiplier of 1024. I'm going to render UVW template and look what it gives us. Voila. Now we can save this as a bitmap. You can save it as whatever you want. I always save it as a bitmap. Just save it to the desktop for now. You can save it wherever you want to use, wherever you're putting your scenery textures. And we'll call it to text. Save. I want to use 24-bit color and OK. Now, for now, we're going to go ahead and save our project. Remember, always save, people, always save. We're going to save our project. We're just going to minimize that and open up Photoshop. Now we're going to create our sign texture. So let's open up our texture that we rendered out. Voila. And you see here, it's looks pretty good. Pretty easy to texture. So basically we just need to, we're going to select this brick column here, basically make a texture from that, and we're going to cut out this here, and the sign itself will be one solid color. I have skipped ahead. Here's the one solid color right there, and then the sign, and then the brick column. So we'll grab my brick column, which is its own layer, and let's just paste it in here like that, and just kind of gonna resize it. Okay, using our arrow keys to kind of get it in the right spot there. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now our texture, as you can see, is a little bit too long, and all that means is that in the 3D object we probably didn't make it as tall or as wide as it should have been. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Use your own creative license here. And what I always do is I go through and I'll just trim off any excess that I have. Goodbye. And there we go. Now we're going to duplicate this over to the other sides, just like so. Duplicate one more time, just like that. And now we're going to go ahead and make our sign here. So we'll go ahead and select all of this. Luckily, it is already kind of in a vertex mode, so it makes it easy to go through and select all of this stuff. Alright, just like that. Let's add a little extra right here, because I kind of got a little click happy. There we go. I'm going to create a new layer, and let's just color that in, just like that. Duplicate it. I'm going to flip it horizontal and just drag it over top of this one here. Voila. This is the top of our brick column, and we can just kind of use one of these textures here close to the top of that brick column, like that. And then the edge of the sign is just going to be the same color as that. So we'll just go ahead and boom, just like that. Alright, so our sign is done. It's basically textured. There's no shadowing on it. You know, normally you'd want to have some shadows here and all that kind of stuff to kind of make it look realistic. Otherwise it's just going to look like just basically an object with no depth to it. I'll show you how we're going to do that. This is one of the other cool little tricks I'll show you here. We're going to select our signage and basically just resize it here so it fits in the designated area. Wood County Airport. Voila. Looks pretty good. Whoever put this sign together basically was drunk. They were drunk by the time they got to the word airport, because it is kind of out of whack. Anything that I resize a lot, I always like to throw a little bit of a sharpen, so like a smart sharpen on it, and kind of sharpen it up a little bit. You know, gives it a little bit more defined edge. So we're done here. We're going to save this as Toot Texture PSD. We'll make it a PSD file, so that we can leave it layered if we need to come back and adjust anything. So let's close that down, or minimize that, and open this back up. Go back into here, our checker pattern, we are going to change it from a checker to a bitmap. I'm going to grab our bitmap that we just created, technically the PSD file, the Photoshop file. Collapse layers, yes. And voila. And there's our sign. Just like that. Pretty easy, huh? Now you could stop right here. Let's close that, collapse that. Now we could stop right here and be done with it. And this is exactly what it would look like inside the sim. Just like this, but without the shadow and the dark side. It looked good. It looks good. It looks the part. It would fool anybody just flying around, whatever. But we want to give it some shadow. and say this is a hangar that has like an open door or something. We want some shadow inside of it. We want it to look good. Here's the cool part. Here's the neat little trick we're going to do here. We're going to burn in an ambient occlusion map, which basically gives it shadow as if we were rendering it out. So if we were going to say render this, we can make it look like as if we rendered it. So what you need to do, if this is the first time you've ever done this, go to rendering, render setup. If you're using you cannot do this in Gmax, so I'm sorry. We're going to assign a renderer, and we're going to use the mental ray. Okay, with mental ray selected, we're going to change this here 116, kind of give it a little bit more detail, I think. Indirect illumination tab. Make sure final gather is checked. It is. And we're going to check global illumination. Everything looks good. And let's click render. Oh, we forgot to, it's telling us there's no light in the scene. So let's add a light here. We're going to add a skylight. Just right there. Bam. Make the light white so that it doesn't put like any kind of blue hue on anything. Multiplier is 1.0. If it's too bright, we can tone it down just a little bit. And just like that. So we will click this little render production. And there's our sign. That's what it would look like inside the sim. Pretty neato, huh? But we want to go ahead and add our shadows. So we go to rendering, render to texture. Sign 1 is already selected. Excuse me. We're going to use an existing channel, meaning we are going to be using our own texture channel that we created. Do not choose automatic unwrap. It'll screw things up. We're going to use existing channel. We're going to add ambient occlusion. We want it to be 1024 by 1024. And samples we'll use about 50 because we want it to be pretty detailed. Good deal. Brights are bright white and darks are dark black. So we are good there. So now we will click the render button. Oh, this little tab here, file name, it's going to save it as a target file. We'll just save it to the desktop. So it's already saved to the desktop. We're good. Hit render. What this is telling us now is saying, hey, this doesn't have a modified slot. It just hit continue. It's okay. And it's showing us basically how it's going to do it. Done. So we can close that out, minimize that, and it has created a target file for us here, wherever we told it to save it. So now we will open that target file. Check it out. See the shadows? Isn't that neat? I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it over top of all of our layers so it is the topmost layer. You can even create a new group for it so that you don't paste over top of it. And you're going to multiply it. And now your sign has texture, shadows. You can kind of adjust this a little bit if you want the brightness or darkness. See how it kind of has a little edge to it? That's because we have the detail set kind of low on our shadows, which is fine. Like I said, this is just a minuscule object that we're not really caring too much about. File, save, go back in. And there we go. Since we saved the texture that's already applied to it, it automatically updated it. Now we have shadows where the sign meets the brick column, and we have a shadow on the sign casted from the brick column. Now that looks pretty good. It looks even better when you use it on multiple objects. I'll show you a little texture here that I did for flat beam for the rental car area. Let's go to flat beam, Denver. Oh, here's our textures right here. And you can see this, see how it basically, see the shadows here? That's how I did it. I rendered to texture all these different shadows. All of these shadows were rendered in. So, and talk about maximizing your space. That is the entire rental car section of Denver International Airport crammed into one texture file. So yeah, that was a lot. So we are good now. All you got to do now is export your little object into the flight simulator in a way that I've already showed you, and you're good to go. You're ready to create to do some other scenery objects. So I hope this helped you out. If it only created more questions, let me know those questions and I can answer them in another tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.